Good afternoon, Chiefs fans. You lost a wide receiver, but this might be a blessing in disguise. We're going to talk about Justyn Watson, what the situation is, and how they pull off. This is a replacement of our normal game plan because the Chiefs had a Thursday night game. So we are reliving that, getting ready for next week as they have a lot to do. Welcome to RGR Football. This is Dan Harms. I'm Ryan Tracy, and this is what we do. Go rogue on your Chiefs. I hope that you guys are having a good Saturday. We wanted to get this one in because this is kind of a big announcement. Justyn Watson has been leading this roster in yardage, honestly, in big plays, if you want to be honest about it. A lot of contributions from Justyn Watson, and I think this is a bigger deal than maybe we let on the other night. We got word it is a elbow dislocation. It looked like a wrist to me at the time from how he was holding himself.
Yeah.
Whew. Made me nervous, but we've gotten a couple of reports. What are you hearing about how long he's going to be out?
Yeah, I've seen a couple of different things, but the fact that they have not gone to IR right now at least leads me to believe 2 to 3 weeks is what they expect, is what we should expect until anything further comes out about it. But the fact that there was nothing damaging, there's probably going to be some ligament damage in there if you're dislocating your shoulder on a fall like that. But otherwise, rest up and healing is just pretty much what he can do right now. And again, nothing broken, so he should be able to return before 4 weeks. Fingers crossed.
I am pretty excited about that. I hope so. And so I had seen for initially an elbow dislocation. He's going to end up playing with a wrap. He's going to, at the very least, probably an extension brace, because that dislocation isn't necessarily like an opening of the joint over hyperextension, but the stability goes out. So it's going to be significant. Everybody's different. He's a guy that I think has a nice long reach, but he's not exactly bulky in what I would call it. So I think that actually lends itself to playing through a wrap fairly decently if he can use it to get off. But I think he's pretty good with his hands overall. So I'm a little bit concerned that this is going to slow his release off the line. Is that where you're at as well?
I'm more about the catch point, because he was talking about, not everyone's elevators go that high. If your elevator might have to come down a little bit if your arms can't extend all the way out when you're trying to reach a football. So at least if it hurts, because think about it, if your elbow hurts and you're trying to extend, as somebody who has floating pieces of cartilage in their left elbow, sometimes when those get stuck and you're trying to reach, that hurts. And so this is your natural reaction to come back. So if he's trying to lay out for a ball and that joint isn't all the way fully healed, that could cause a little bit of recoil, and then that might mess up timing a little bit. So I'm more worried about the pain management and the reaction part for reaching out, because at the end of the day, that's what this is. It's about healing up those ligaments that probably got torn a little bit, moved around from a dislocation of an elbow, and then hoping that doesn't cause recoil.
I just cringed there a little bit. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, right?
Damage. Not my favorite thing. It brings us to where we're at with the rest of the wide receiver crew. And Micah's got a good question in here. Can Nico and Richie James come back from IR? Nico cannot. Nico went out before the season. He is lost for the year. James can, but I've heard no inclination that he may. I think that injury is more significant than we thought. I don't think he's going to be back by then. The Chiefs, as usual, are keeping their mouth shut. We don't have specific details, so we'll just have to find out on Richie. But this is the flip side of that coin, and there is with everybody. What that does and allows the rest of the youth at this position to grow into. We're going to discuss that at length, folks. If you're new to us, hit the like on this video, hit the sub so you become part of RGR. And then if you want to join in the memberships and get the rants that Dan just did the other day, or my Where I'm At series, any of my game notes, et cetera, as breaking news, all that stuff is behind the member unit. Go grab that and join at the rookie level or above, and you can get all that connected, including our Discord that has a ton of information and a bunch of the RGR Nation fans in there. You can join that, and you'll get linked if you just connect your YouTube account and your Discord account. Super, super easy. And thanks to FLTV for doing that.
Yes.
That said, it allows these younger guys to step up. And the national media started to pick up ever since the game the other night about, Rashee Rice might be the guy that's going to take over. Yes, they're now shouting it from the rooftops like we have been since, I don't know, week 1. So at this point, I feel comfortable with that. And I don't want it to grow too much. I'm a little worried about the national media putting pressure on Rashee to the point that I like his concentration right now. Like, we've seen improvement. Let's not take him a step backwards, you know?
Yeah, I think this is going to put a little more extra pressure on Skyy Moore specifically. Like, Rashee Rice has been stepping up. He's been getting more playing time, getting more snaps, getting more entire, targets and stuff like that. So I think people are going to naturally go to where this puts Skyy Moore in the pecking order. But personally, I think this is going to help everybody on the wide receiver room out because, yes, it sucks to have anybody get hurt, especially the chief that is currently leading them in receiving yards. It's not a great thing to have happen, but they are doing so much with moving players around and bringing guys in, rotating guys out, that I think personally it's gotten some chemistry issues kind of woven into their offense in and of itself. So I think that at the end of the day, this might help them do some things with the rest of the offense to help those players get more comfortable in the offense and maybe get some more looks and more targets and more active in the game. So I think that's where I'm at right now.
I completely agree with you. You got to take advantage where you
Don't
can.
disagree,
This opens up, and for those of you who didn't see,
Yeah.
let him get back to full strength. That's why you kept 7 wide receivers. That's why you have this stable of guys, and I think that makes a lot of sense. When we look at stats, with his exit, guys did pass him up a little bit in terms of target share, obviously, yardage as well. Now Patrick ahead of him, and Rashee Rice caught him as well, just because he didn't play that ball game for most part. That was his only target, and I can't remember when that happened, but it was pretty early.
Yeah.
That didn't allow him to really rack up many stats. So Rashee Rice can step up a little bit, like you said, put that pressure on Skyy Moore. MVS needs to continue. I think MVS has the closest role to what they've been using Watson for in terms of fit. So maybe you're going to see him on those deep goes. We all know that those sometimes have a little bit of issues themselves.
Yeah.
But in terms of new wrinkles, what do you want to see from Andy Reid in this offense in terms of the receivers?
I'd love to see slants. We talk about this all the time, and they don't really utilize a ton of slants, glance routes. And we've seen Rashee Rice do a couple of those, like against the Bears. He ran almost exclusively with those glances because there was a bunch of open space to work with. But I think Skyy should be able to use some more of the middle of the field. He's gotten some backside digs, but he's never been gotten to in the read progression because the ball usually comes out before that, and that's going to happen sometimes. And just the all of the checkdowns to the outside are really going to help eventually. They did eventually help in the Broncos game, bring those linebackers down and get them outside, so then you can attack a little bit on the outside and in the middle parts of the intermediate parts of the outside field. But I think just the most thing they have to continue to do is flood the middle of the field, because defenses are playing off and not allowing them to throw the ball deep. And when you do get a leak in the defense, meaning someone stepping up or maybe playing a little bit closer to the inside, take those shots when you get them and try and exploit what you get. Because at the end of the day, this ball is coming out quick and the receiver routes are being short, and they're getting a lot more differentiating zones and man coverage than what they're expecting, is what it looks like to me.
Yeah, that's what I'm seeing too. And Andy talked about how much zone they're seeing lately. It's got to be more, I think, dedicated zone beaters. 60, 70% of the pass plays, next game plan has to have that address. It can't be as much getting caught where you're trying to run man because you're hoping you're going to get it, or you think you're going to and you don't. I think what teams are seeing, that Broncos holding them to 19 points, I think is only going to enforce the zone rules that most teams are playing with now. So you got to beat it before it goes away. And I think that's going to be the bottom line. You can run different guys in. I think Ross should get more looks. And I think if you're trying to beat zone, one thing that you can do is sit down and throw a contested ball in a window where your guy should be the guy who wins it.
Yeah.
That's an acceptable practice. So let's see what happens with Ross in particular. I think he's the guy that might get the big boost in terms of being on the field more. Whether he's targeted more or not, I think that's a second step, but we're going to get there. The wide receivers are just one part. What's the defense got to do? What's it going to look like with Charles Omenihu? We're going to get to that coming up in a little bit. But first, very excited to let you guys know that we have a brand new sponsor here on the Game Plan Video. We're brought to you by Underdog Fantasy, where right now they're running a new customer offer with a mystery pick'em special plus $100 deposit match. So you put 100 in there, they're going to put it into your account as well and match you up to that $100 so that you can start playing some pick'em games. They have draft games. This is daily fantasy sports at its best. And I think it's really, really simple. We're going to go through, and the segment that we're starting here on the Friday game plans is going to be about what we're going to choose. This is the concept. It is a projection. They're going to tell you what they think is going to happen. You're just going to decide whether it's the output's going to be higher or lower. That's it. Super simple. I love that concept because it just makes things easier for real football fans to just say, no, you're nuts. He's going to throw for more yards than that. No, and there's no way he's gaining that much on the ground. It's very, very simple. Their projection, do you like lower or higher? Very, very simple. And we're going to show you how to do it here right now as we're starting with this as well. This is what it looks like if you get to Underdog. And you can see that they're going to highlight a pick for you. It's AJ Brown this week. That's perfectly fine. Usually this is going to be a Chief, and most Friday games,
yes,
we're going to be showing you all Chiefs picks. Obviously, the Chiefs have played this week, so we get to expand and kind of play around with some of the other teams, other games that are going on. So I know, Dan, that you play daily fantasy sports more than I do. I'm as new as you guys are. So if you want to get signed up, go over to Underdog Sports. There's a link in the description. You can also just go to underdogfantasy.com and use our code RGR, and you get signed up and you get that new member special. And that's how your deposit gets matched up to $100. But you know your way around, and I know you're looking at the league. So is there a game in particular you want to look at and take a look at what the projections are?
Well, there's a couple of them. We just got word that Sauce Gardner and DJ Reed for the Jets, who the Eagles are playing this weekend, are going to be out for that game, which makes that AJ pick on his fantasy point totals, which I think was 13.95, if I'm not mistaken, something like that. Or,
it is.
Yeah, right there. So I think higher than that for him makes a lot of sense, considering they are not going to have Sauce. They're not going to have DJ Reed. He should be in for a pretty big day for the Eagles. And honestly, anything with Jalen Hurts, you might even want to go higher on, because that defense is usually what is taking, it brought the Chiefs offense to a standstill for the last 3 quarters of the game. But on the outside, you're able to now take some shots for AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. So though that's a game that I'm looking for some hires. There's also one for the Chicago Bears. They've lost both of their starting running backs. Roschon Johnson, even if he plays, is going to be more of a limited capacity. Khalil Herbert is on the IR. That brings up Donta Foreman, and Justin Fields has one of the, if not the highest checkdown rate in the NFL. So Donta Foreman, we're looking at his fantasy point total. I'm almost all over whatever his point total is to be higher right now, because we all know that the Vikings defense isn't exactly a work of art. So we're higher than 8.5 fantasy points. Like, yeah, I'm all in on that. So what I like about this format is that you get 5 picks for your full pick'em roster. Okay, it can be higher, it can be lower. You want a game like there's the I forget what game is supposed to be kind of ugly. There's a weather game that is going to be played. I can't remember exactly, but find some of those weather games and you take some of the lowers on those point totals, and it's really nice to be able to build that out, and then just have 5 different pick'em, 5 different pick'ems on your roster, and just kind of wait those out.
What's really cool about this particular process is, especially if we are looking at Chiefs games like we will be starting next week, you'll be able to do this in game as well. And so if something does go wrong, or if the other kicker misses something, now coming back the next time, you've got a little better idea what's going to go on. I'm trying to look at what might be that weather game. Is it New York?
I don't think so. I was listening to something earlier. I can't even remember what the weather is, but there are a couple people that do like weather recaps on Twitter, and that's stuff that you want to look for to kind of to highlight if you want to go higher or lower on these values. I know for some people you'll be able to pick higher or lower yards and higher or lower touchdowns, stuff like that. But we're focusing on this right now, and then next week when we do this on Friday for the Chiefs games, we're hoping to be able to see some of those higher or lower on the yards and touchdowns, stuff like that too.
I got to ask you, one of the ones that I was looking at was PJ Walker playing for Deshaun Watson, not in the ball game. Do you take lower at 9.5? against San
Yeah.
Francisco.
Against the San Francisco's defense. Yeah, that's somewhere I'm looking too. Even Jerome Ford. I mean, Jerome Ford can probably get some targets, especially because PJ Walker might be checking it down. So that's someplace you might see he could even catch seven balls in this game alone, which could make him a higher guy. But yes, here it is, Lewis. You're right. You're absolutely right. It is the Seahawks Bengals game is supposed to be a bit of a weather game. So that's something where everyone was like, okay, Joe Burrow looked back last week. Is he really back? Or did he have a one game against the Arizona Cardinals and then they come back to a weather game and you see that 17.65 fantasy points for Joe Burrow against the Seahawks defense, which can be smothering an offensive line that's not very good for the Bengals. That's someplace you might target in a lower on the fantasy points for Joe Burrow, especially off that one week we saw him where he looked healthy. I don't know. Just saying, it's something to look at.
I'm absolutely here for. I'm here for the lack of faith in Joe Burrow. That's what I am here for. Okay, so we've got 4 in so far. We've got Donta Foreman. We've got AJ Brown. Like that matchup there. PJ Walker we took because there's come on. And then Joe Burrow. Let's put a 5th in there and see what we like. I love the weather concept, but it's this one that I keep coming back to. And I don't know why.
Yeah, I get that too. Jacksonville's defense has been really good. The problem is that they're traveling back this week, right? Like they traveled. Like another game to kind of target for this higher or lower would be the teams traveling to London, the Ravens and the Titans. They play this week in London. That's a game where, last week we saw the Bills travel to England and their offense kind of sputtered a little bit. They put up 20 points. And when you're looking at fantasy total points, especially those long travel games are somewhere where you could really target. And specifically guys that are boom bust candidates like Travis Etienne, for example, against the Ravens defense is an interesting one. He really had a good week last week. Does he have a good week this week? Their offensive line isn't very good. That one's specifically a really tough one. I don't know. That's back and forth for me. I don't know about you.
I like it. I don't know. I like the game, but maybe you're right. You're talking me out of that being a slam dunk. So I'm going to take it easy on that one. But why don't we just roll with the 4 that we have? Yeah. I'm just going to go 20 here because I'm feeling good about it. Not too.
I like it.
There was a 0 in there. And so this is the fun part about it is we've made these picks against games that are not Kansas City. Obviously, we'll have more input when it is Kansas City because we'll know a whole lot better. But I'm going to take the standard because I would like to make all of this up to 200. So I'm going to go ahead, submit, and we're going to be in like Flynn. That's how easy it is over at Underdog. So use our code RGR over at UnderdogFantasy.com. You can get in there right now. There's a link in the description below that'll make it a little bit easier too. I like where we're going. We welcome Underdog to sponsoring RGR, the game plan video on Fridays. So please be back and visit us every Friday for that. Now, knowing that there's other games going on, and I'm glad you brought this up, Jeremy, because there is a way you can do the college guys in there as well. I'm not going to do that right this minute. But long story short, all that goes to say that the offensive side of the Kansas City Chiefs is always popular in anything fantasy, especially daily fantasy sports. So that will always be there. And the offense in this wide receiver issue is going to be there as well. The defense is what has been raising all the flags, right? Again, the national media is a few weeks behind the rest of us in that they're not watching it as succinctly as we do every single week. And now they're starting to be like, hey, this defense is really that good. And yes, it is. And now they're getting a boost. They're getting an extra rocket to fire at somebody in Charles Menahue, who not only has been a solid player, but he has been a guy that has come on in seasons as he I don't want to say mature. I'm not trying to say he was immature before, but he's certainly coming along and evolving. When you watch him at Texas, he was kind of a one move kind of guy on the outside. And I think inside next to Chris is really where I'm even more excited about him because we've seen good things from Dana and we've seen Karlaftis and we've seen FAU that can be outside. My first question to you, Dan, is like, where do you want to see him line up the most?
I want to see him lined up over the center, 100% over the center. And then you can dictate matchup problems. You can get him on the center. You could bring George Karlaftis next to him, and then Chris Jones on the outside. That is the length and the reach that Charles Omenihu brings to that position is something that centers don't often have to deal with. They don't have to deal with these guys that are long and tall and have that quickness. Typically, they get that help. You can dictate one-on-ones for every one of your other pass rushers with putting Charles Omenihu in there, and he still might be able to defeat some of those double teams. So that's someplace that we saw last year George Karlaftis really be able to bring everyone else to light. He was able to get one-on-ones for Mike Dana, for Chris Jones, and things like that. And I think Omenihu this year can get one-on-ones on the interior for George Karlaftis as a 3-tech. You put him at 3-tech, you put Chris Jones on an island as against a tackle. We're talking about guys who can win quickly. I think that's one area where GK can win quickly this year against guards. He's not doing it quickly enough against tackles. I think he's getting better. His trajectory is going up, but you could really cement a huge pass rush boost with putting Charles Omenihu over the center and making them dictate one-on-ones to everybody else.
I really love that because it forces that double team and allows you to do all the contrition that you want. How happy were you with Chris Jones on the outside last week? Because I think that's one of the big pluses here.
Yes, Chris Jones has been, we don't want to see him on the outside full-time. Like, he is not a full-time guy. That's great. But in the limited reps that he's playing on the outside, he might be the best defensive end in football in terms of pass rush. Like, he's winning quickly. He's got a sack in every single game that he's played, but he's doing it from predominantly on the edge where he's winning. You saw he's able to win very quickly against those tackles that he's got that angle on. When he can set like a wide 9-ish position and just pass rush directly square up on a tackle on an island, he wins nearly every single time from that quickness and that speed that they're not expecting at 6'6", who plays defensive tackle. So he's been an extremely impressive player for one, not getting camp, and who is not a defensive end of the NFL. He's not, but he wins that way as a pass rusher. So it's added a whole different element to their defense. I mean, they meddled with it last year, but he still got most of his pass rush wins in sacks from the inside. We saw it start to go up and up and up from the outside as the season went along. And right now, like I said, he might be the best pass rushing defensive end in football in terms of how efficient he is and how he's getting his sacks.
Yeah. Sacks are the end result you're looking for. It's where the pressure is going to come from now. I think this next week we're going to start to see, I don't think it'll be right away, but I do think as Omenihu plays into shape, with Nick coming back for a second game, I think we're going to start to see a little bit more diminished blitz. Hopefully still when they do from the linebacker level with only a safety blitz like sprinkled in. We know Spags loves those, but I think that's going to allow them to shift their defense again. It's been playing very well. My question to you is, for me, I'm glad he's going to be back, but I really wouldn't change things up yet until you get to the Buffaloes and the Cincinnatis and everyone that you have to like pull out more for. Like, I don't want to show a whole lot more. So I'm still going to be sending the same stuff that I'm doing now. I'm just hoping that the 4-man front plus a 5th rusher is going to get things done even better.
Yeah. My thing about that is that you can show your hand all you want to. Can they stop it? I don't think it matters. If they see what these blitzes are doing, adding Omenihu into the bunch, I'm not entirely sure that it's going to matter all that much. I know Buffalo's offensive line has gotten better this year, but at the end of the day, I know that the Bengals offensive line is not very good. I know that the Miami offensive line is not very good. And I also know that while the Bills' offensive line is better than it was, they're not going to be able to really stop what is happening right here. So I think they're going to sprinkle Omenihu in early. He's not going to be the starter right away, but they're going to put him in enough positions to be impactful as a pass rusher. And you might see him rotate in a good amount on the first and second down just to give guys less snaps, which keeps everyone fresh. We saw that was really important last year into the postseason, keeping everybody fresh. He adds to that room to be able to keep everyone as fresh as possible going into the latter parts of the season.
I'm all for that because I really like the way that this has gone. Even if they get into some of those higher output offenses they're going to face and they back off a little bit of their output, this is still leaps and bounds ahead of where they've been at this point in the season any year that Mahomes has had. So that sets them up for being able to run it back. If you're not allowing as many points, you don't have to score as many points. So if everything's falling together, we're going to be all right. Just a quick update for you Jayhawk fans. Jayhawks are up by 1 at halftime on Oklahoma State. Jason Bean, 274 yards and 4 touchdowns already. Having a day. Good for him. We will wrap up in time for us to watch the second half. Don't worry. That said, we're going to answer a few questions. And obviously, this is not a standard game plan because we're not to that point yet. But these are all factors that are going to go into it. We talked about Nick Bolton post-game. Just real quick before we hit JJ's question. I felt like the rotation at linebacker is what I want to see going forward. Like, I don't have to have it be two guys place 80% of the snaps and everybody else just fills in. Like, I like this rotation as much as I like the front four.
It's doing just as much to their front four as it is to the linebackers. It's beneficial for everybody. It helps get a guy you need to have on the field more, in Drue Tranquill there more. It gets Leo Chenal that experience that he's needed. It keeps Nick Bolton fresh. When he can just run downhill, or now just kind of get into his zone, because we talked about how coming out, coverage wasn't his strength. But from year 1 to year 2, that dropping into zone got more impressive. And from last year to this year, his understanding of how the defense works together, like everyone's, has really taken a step forward. And that interception, he was basically just filling in for Drue Tranquill, who released when the running back released to the flat, Drue rotated down and Nick rotated in. That's just pure understanding of how split-second football impacts your plays on the field and how the mental side of the game is coming together for Nick Bolton. So, yes, more rotation, getting their best players on the field whenever they can.
That instant, I mean, that recognition and that instant reaction, that's what you're looking for. I mean, that it's what makes the difference in ball games. JJ, absolutely. Explain to me why the majority of the run game is out of the gun. In the red zone, the Broncos played so far off. Run game could have been much better. It's because they're running RPOs and they want that option so that Patrick can just pull it. If you line up in a dedicated run formation with Patrick under center, and maybe you're in 12 or 13, those personnel packages give it away and it packs in. Andy wants to stay spread out, and that's why they run out of the gun as much as they do. Do I agree with it? Not necessarily. I'd love to see things sprinkled in. I would like to see some shifts. I would like to see run out of the gun and shift into it just before the snap. I think that could be useful, and you're not going to get the instant reaction from most teams. The elite defenses will be able to deal with it, but other than that, I think you're going to make a lot of hay that way.
Yeah, and they're probably not going to change much because this is what they do. But at the end of the day, they're still pretty efficient running the ball out of shotgun. You just typically don't see the big gigantic plays out of shotgun because defenses have a little bit more time to come down. Also, the play action doesn't work as well because Mahomes, his play action fakes, as Ryan has mentioned multiple times, aren't great. And when it's shotgun, he's already got his eyes downfield, so he's looking. When it's under center, it forces him to kind of put the ball in the belly and then turn around. When he's doing it out of shotgun, he's like, I'm looking already. I know where the ball is going. Like, he's got eyes on it. So sometimes that under center play action or even run can help keep the defense a little bit more honest because they're looking at eyes too.
Aaron, you're back.
Aaron, what's going on, man?
Everyone say hi to the mod father, would you? What does he say here? Raiders YouTube channels require you subscribe to comment. Good idea for a Raider channel. Well, I think I know who you're talking to. So, Didi, keep it cool. Welcome.
What's going on, Didi?
There is only one Raiders Nation, and it's getting smaller every week. Sorry. Let's see here. Who was next? It was Micah. Donovan Jones, Peoples Jones. I can't remember.
Peoples Jones.
Always sounds like a law firm to me. So, in trade rumors, would you take him? I personally would not.
There's really no point. We already have guys running wind sprints down the field. That's what he does at this point, and they have a punt returner.
He's not doing anything different than MVS. I don't know what his salary is. If you could switch him out and maybe save a couple mil, okay, fine. But
sure, okay.
Doesn't change anything. No. Any tight end on the trade block that you've heard of? Lance and Trev had spoken this morning that they were talking trade with Pitts when I joined live. I mean, everybody wants to talk about Kyle Pitts. The Atlanta Falcons, Terry Fontenot is no idiot. And whatever you're going to do there, whether it is with Smith at the helm or not, you're going to do it with Kyle Pitts. You made that investment. They're not trading him. If they did, it would be criminal and he would get fired immediately. Des Ridder showed you what he can do last week when you actually game plan for throwing the damn ball. We've been waiting for this. We've been supporting Des. He was my number 2 quarterback coming out of that class.
And he was my QB1. And it's like, that's just...
So just let him cook. I know it sucks. If you're Kyle Pitts, I'd want out of there. But I don't think it's ever going to really happen. Because now, the only chance you have to have an aerial attack is to feed either Drake or Kyle, and you can't do either of that unless you have them both, because they have to draw coverage away from each other.
Absolutely. Desmond Ridder can be a good NFL quarterback. I think that, like you said, last week was the glimpse. Everyone has been talking about, in Atlanta, been talking about his mind. But if you don't let him actually throw the football with a game plan built around throwing the football, what's he going to be able to do? You're running the ball and then making him come back in games where he's basically cold, sitting back there trying to do stuff, but get him involved early. I think they can be a pretty good passing offense.
I think so too. Hey, it's somewhere to start. Michael, did you see CU in Stanford last night? Minor, is that how you say that?
I believe so.
I saw the highlights, Mike. I didn't get to see the ball game. I'm in Colorado and it wasn't on local TV. So that tells you what they think. I got to see a couple of highlights and it did look good, especially that one where he pinned it to the back of Hunter's head. And Hunter's a good DB. Draft steal. I don't even know if he's eligible. I didn't know the kid's name until last night. So, Dan, did you?
Nope. Didn't know who he was. And
I
don't watch much Stanford football. No offense, guys.
I love Stanford football. In the old days, anyway. They're always good for a win for my Huskies. So, hey, it is what it is. And I know there's a question about a Husky coming up here. But yeah, Mike, we'll check him out. I don't even know if he's draft eligible. I know nothing about him, but we will figure it pretty soon here. Jesus, is Omenihu back at practice? Not yet. He can, I believe, as of Tuesday.
Yeah,
they actually get a waiver because they played late, so it might be Monday even. I think they have to apply to the league for that because of their schedule. I think they can do something on Monday, but we'll see. They should have meetings or a walkthrough here tomorrow night on Sunday. So maybe we'll hear something by then. He can meet, I believe, before he can be on the field, but we'll find out. The CBA, it's this thick, and it's the tiniest print I've ever seen in my life. Who knows? So smash the like. Thank you. Appreciate you, H2W.
Appreciate
very. If you guys would do that, hit the like, hit the sub, become a part of this channel, because we're here 5 days a week, if not more. So and Noah asked the question, any receivers from Washington Chiefs should look for? Sure. I mean, Adunze is going to be a top half of the first draft, I think. Will the Chiefs go up and get him? If they go up there and they take Adunze, like,
okay, I'd
love to see him in this offense, but if you're going up that high, you're taking a tackle. If there's any other explanation, there's a problem. So the guy that I would keep my eyes on is Pope. Jalen he's more of the size that Andy likes. He's somewhere between Macklin and, I don't know, maybe even Skyy. Like he's a little bit thicker built, but he's got the speed to burn. He runs deep routes well. He runs overs well. He'll run that dig. He'll go across the middle. He ain't scared. He's the guy I would keep an eye on because I like Jalen Polk in this offense a little bit more. Dunze is like, would they even use him right? That's going to be my question.
I don't know, man. This offense in Washington's built around the deep ball, so I mean, you never really know.
Yeah. I mean, if the Chiefs were to go to more of a spread, which they've done in some years, I think it would work. But a true vertical spread game is going to be more appropriate. But the Chiefs look like that half the time, so it could certainly work. I know everybody's going to be fired up about Jackson today. I know he had a couple of nice plays. That one out of the slot where he just kind of bent that skinny post, it worked great. I don't have as much confidence in him. I like McMillan. I don't know if he's not playing today or anything. I haven't seen stats on him in 2 weeks. Was he
on the sideline though? So he may have gotten re-injured.
And I'll tell you the flip side of this particular game. I love Troy Franklin. I think he can do a lot, and I don't think he's a fit necessarily. Yeah, I mean, not necessarily in the Kansas City offense, but he's going to be awesome. I think.
I think he's one of the guys that might transcend scheme. Personally, I think he's that good.
Awesome. Okay, you're even higher on him than me. That's great.
Yeah.
Has Charles been allowed to practice with the team during the special? No, he's not. When you're suspended, you are away from the facility. You are not allowed in a whole 9 yards. He is persona non grata. So that's all right. He'll get back in the swing of it. As long as he stayed in shape, you're going to hear about him super fast.
Absolutely.
If you heard, I missed that one. Just checking out for any more questions, you guys. and we will get back to our regularly scheduled programming, because this is going to be a fun week. I'm looking forward to it. Maybe more so than I should be. I don't know. I want to see this start to roll. I really felt overall, Dan, taking a step back from that they basically took a week off. Like they weren't scared of the Broncos. They screwed around with I'm just going to say this out loud. Kadarius Toney, never throw a pass, please. I just don't need it. There's no reason for it. It's just silliness at this point. I don't think it's tactically an advantage against any team in this particular league, because you have Patrick Mahomes. There's just no getting away from that for me.
It's just trickery to try to get one of these safeties to come down. That's all it is. That really is all it is. And there were still two guys on the receiver he threw it to. They don't care. They do not care about the trickery with the throws, okay? You're not getting anyone loose deep on a trick play. You're not doing it. And also, tossing the ball to Clyde Edwards-Helaire to the left, the defense isn't triggering on that. You want to know why? Because he's slow. Just is. Yeah, so if you wanted to do that, maybe pitch it to Isaiah Pacheco. Maybe you get a little bit more trigger. But I don't care. I'm just done with the non-Matt Patrick Mahomes passes. I'm just done with it. I called it. Doesn't mean I wanted to see it.
I'm totally with you. Talon, you're not the only person that's lost some of their YouTube notifications. There's a setting in their latest version of their Apple app, in particular, the iOS app. I think it affected Android, but not as blatantly. You just have to go back in and turn on all notifications. There is a global setting, and then as long as you're got notifications on for our channel, you will get those again as well. And we got one last question. We're going to hit that from Micah. Former Titans linebacker, now Seahawks assistant coach Bates, said that on the podcast last week that Khalil Mack is still elite after playing in LAC. He's still good. I would not call him elite in my opinion. Where do you stand? Okay.
When somebody just takes advantage of the situation that's been given to them, he was basically left on an island in that game. He had 6 sacks or whatever it was.
Yep.
He was not helped. No one helped him. That's a coaching problem. That's a
failure of the offense.
Problem. Yes. Yeah. Them to not adjust to that. Khalil Mack is not an elite player anymore. He's not. He's a very good player when he comes to play, but he is not an elite playmaker anymore. He's just not.
I concur. And, obviously, Chargers are starting to get on our minds, folks. It's going to be a long week. We're going to have content for you. We don't have a Sunday night stream. We might throw that on there just to have some fun with whatever happens tomorrow, because I want to talk about the league. So if you would, please come back with us tomorrow night. Monday is the big show. It's your show where your Q&A, we answer all your questions all night long. We might give you 5 minutes up front of a topic that we think is important. In the meantime, it's just all your questions. So we're going to hit that. Don't miss that at 7 Central. You're going to hit it. And then all week long, we'll have content running up to the Chargers game where we're going to repeat this type of show, our game plan show, on Friday afternoon, evening. We'll work on timing, and we'll set you up for the weekend. We'll get you into the underdog, the whole 9 thing, everything to prep you for the weekend. So we appreciate you being here. Like, sub, become a member of this channel. Mike had one more thought, though, and it's back to the he's a sophomore. Okay. If he's a redshirt sophomore, he's eligible. You got to be 2 years removed from high school is going to be the rule. So I will check in on him. Aaron, thank you for this. And it's nice to see you back, buddy. Aaron, one of our mods, folks, give him a hand. So it's going to be a fun week. Enjoy the rest of college football. Enjoy tomorrow. We'll have some fun tomorrow night, and then we'll be back at it on Monday for your Q&A. Have a wonderful evening. I'm going to try to find my mouse so I can actually click the buttons that I need to click here. Thanks, Dan. What are you cooking tonight, by the way?
I'm making some zuppa toscana real quick in the pressure cooker. My instant pot.
Sounds Italian.
We're doing a little bit of soup.
I like it. That's awesome. Okay, I'm going to need a picture of that later.
Don't worry, I'll get it to you. I promise.
All right, that's what I'm talking about. All right, you guys have a great night. We'll see Dan's cooking tomorrow. Have a good one. We'll talk to you then.